Yes, actually tonight I was very, very much inspired about Rentse and what she's doing. It was very, very touching to me because looking at Africa, like I've always told you, Africa is too wealthy to be poor, and to have somebody that's so dedicated and looking, putting in the efforts to see how we can make Africa better, that's just a great thing. So later on, I'm going to talk to Rentse and find out more about what she's doing and the project. But, I would like to find out more about JK and Partner right now, or really the ABCD organization and what it's all about and what direction and what you want to do about this organization and what's...
Well, thank you, Wakapezzi, for bringing that up, because ABCD, I am the co-founder of ABCD. And when we started ABCD, initially, the whole idea behind ABCD was to create business partnerships between California and the Southern African Development Community, the SADC. But as we developed, or as we grew, we got a lot of response from the community, the African community as a whole. And what happened was we realized that the need for Africa's development was not only concentrated in the SADC region, it was a need that was an African need, so to speak. So what we decided to do, Dr. Chipasha Luchembe, who is a history professor and also a patriot of Zambia and an African historian, together with Benjamin Walker Sr., who's an American veteran, a military man, also a technologist with a master's degree from UCLA, and Tyrone Hakim, who is our executive director, and also George Maciel, who is originally from Mozambique. And we sat down and we had a meeting. It was more of a conversation as brothers, And we said, wait a minute. We need to really evaluate the need for Africa. And we later found out that every part of Africa had a specific need. George had specific ideas and he had specific goals for Mozambique. Hakim, who's an American, and Benjamin, who's also an American, they had their own interest in America. So essentially what we ended up with was a situation where we found ourselves in the middle of a class warfare, so to speak. And we realized that America needed jobs just like Africa needed jobs. So as ABCD, African Business and Culture Development, it was more than an obligation. It was more of a calling that we identified ourselves as the chosen few. And my wife, Rentse, when you talk to her later, she'll tell you this. My friend, Elias Chipimo Jr., who was a presidential candidate for Zambia, he didn't make it, not because he was unqualified, but just because it wasn't his time. And luckily for him, we have Mr. Sata, who, as you know, is not only a friend of your mother, who is my aunt, is also a friend of my godfather, Mr. Mambwe. So the whole idea of bringing Zambia into a different era to help Zambia capture what Zambia is really about. Zambia, not only Zambia, let me digress, if I may.
Sure.
first of all, I am an African before I am a Zambian. Okay, and Zambia is in Africa, not Africa in Zambia. You see what I'm saying? So my point is, my concentration is not only on Zambia. My concentration is on Mozambique. Why? Because my mother is from Mozambique. I have developed a very, very keen relationship with George Maciel, who is a little brother to me. He's from Mozambique. Then my wife, Rentse, as you know, is from Botswana. Then I have Lucy, who is like a niece to me. She's from South Sudan. Then I have all these people in my circle that I decided, or rather, I felt that every single one of these people needed representation. And it was our duty as ABCD to make sure that when we spoke on behalf of Africa, we not only spoke about Zambia, but we spoke about Africa as a whole. And when you take into consideration that there's a strong misconception that Africa is a poor continent, Africa is not poor.
Africa is too wealthy to be poor. I have already said that.
Exactly.
And
so it is not only untrue, it is demeaning, and it is disrespectful to the African people.
Yes.
To have Africa portrayed as a poor nation that just needs welfare. Africa has all the natural resources that you can think of. We have oil, we have diamond, we have copper, we have gold, we have an abundance of water supply. We have massive land. In most African countries, we are, when you take Zambia for instance, as developed as Zambia is still only 40% urban. The other 60%, it could probably be more. The other 60% is rural. And what we need is a partnership with America. We need a fair partnership to where we are looked upon as fair partners, not as a community or a third world country
that just needs donations.
For donations.
That has to stop.
It has to stop.
Definitely, that has to stop.
And when you really think about it, Africa, the one reason why Africa is called the motherland,
Yes.
and one of the reasons why civilization first began in Africa is because Africa is the motherland. And Africa as the motherland, that you have to think about that. Africa gave birth to civilization as we know it today. But because we were so overwhelmed by colonialism and by the slave trade, we found ourselves feeling inferior. But as we are developing, especially those of us that have lived in the United States or in the Western world, we found out that we have power to change the paradigm. And it is Africa's opportunity and Africa's turn to come to the aid of the Western world. Exactly. We have enough resources to help the United States.
So if, sorry to cut you short, if I may just ask a question. I mean, looking at the United States of America, you know how united they are with Africa, you know, how far have they gone in terms of, you know, uniting in terms of trade? So is any kind of like agreement coming along that will be, you know, to be able to agree, we'll be able to trade, you know, so can you shed more light about what kind of agreements going on and how the involvement with the ABCD would be able to enhance that kind of atmosphere?
Well, I'm glad that you bring up that point, because as we speak right now, there are 26 African nations, okay? We have COMESA, we have the EAC, which is the East African Community, and we have the SADC, which is the Southern African Development Community. These three regions have come together to create a united Africa. And combined with these 26 nations, they have 600 million people. Okay? A population of 600 million people, and a GDP, which is a gross domestic product, of about $1 trillion. Okay? This is just the beginning. And this region that we're talking about, it's called the tripartite trade agreement. If this agreement goes through, which we're hoping that it will, because this agreement was initiated in June of 2010, and there will be a summit coming in October. It will be from October 12th to October 15th. Once this initiation is consummated, we are looking at a united Africa at 50%. We're looking at 50% of Africa united as one. We're talking about breaking borders, breaking barriers. We're talking about Durban, the port of Durban, which is the biggest port in Africa, and the Los Angeles port coming together and working together, okay, to create trade between the United States of America and Africa. So to answer your question, this is an initiative that was started about 60 years ago by Kwame Nkrumah, Samora Machel, Kenneth Kaunda, Dr. Kenneth Kaunda, who was our president, who I love dearly. I've had the opportunity to talk with him and meet with him, and also Nelson Mandela. Okay, these guys sat at a table just like you and I are sitting, and they said, "How can we develop Africa together?" But because as Africans, or rather as black people, we have been colonized, therefore brainwashed. And I don't say that in a negative way. I mean, I'm trying to be as realistic.
It's pretty much depend. You see, I understand where you're coming from. You know, it's pretty much depend. When you have somebody, if you've been colonized, pretty much they have the means of production. You know, it's like you don't have. Even when we gained the independence, we still had to go through Britain. Right. You know, so it's like you still stack. You know, so that's just like a drawback. But my only concern right about now is that how do we have a lot of investors coming into Africa. So my only concern that why Africa is not getting wealthy is the retention of the profits, because most of these investors that come into Africa tend to take the profits back to their countries, and that's what we have in the situation. So what kind of agreements should we come up with that would enable to put money in our African people's pockets? Because that's where the deal is. You know, we can have so many people, like right now, what's the situation? We have Zambia that has a lot of Chinese investing in the country, but the concern is that most of the time when people come into our countries, they invest, of course, they have a home. They take the money back. So we pretty much have to come up with agreements attracting investors to come into Africa, but at the same time to be able to retain the money or whatever monetary value out of all these transactions back into our country. So how would we go about trying to get something like that would be able to say, because I mean, we have people coming into our countries doing business, but at the end of the day, our people don't have anything.
Well, first of all, we need to understand that trade is a two-way street, okay? You can't clap with one hand. You need two hands to clap, okay? That's how trade works. Africa has multi-millionaires that are looking to invest in America, just like America has multi-millionaires that are looking to invest in Africa. America right now is in a situation where you have all these toxic mortgage assets, okay, that came as a result of bad planning by Wall Street. Okay, there are a lot of people, or rather families, that are facing foreclosure right now. There's a lot of houses that are on the market that American investors are not interested in. Okay, American investors are not interested in putting the money into America because the market is so volatile. It's not safe. So what they're doing is they're looking to invest into Africa, but at the same time, you have Africans that have made money in the mining industry that are looking to invest in the United States. So our goal at ABCD, what we're doing is we're trying to open these doors. Okay, we're trying to, what we are, we're basically an international chamber of commerce. So what we do is we create partnerships between Africa and the United States.
Okay.
We have American investors that are looking to invest in emerald, gold, copper, oil, diamonds. And then we have African investors that are looking to invest in real estate here.
Okay.
And if we make this happen, which we're doing,
Definitely we're doing that.
then we'll create jobs.
So let me ask you, as ABCD right about now, what companies, I mean, you being in LA or pretty much Hollywood, which has a lot of celebrities. So who are you working with trying to convince to invest into Africa? I mean, it's like what organizations, you have any connections, anybody you're trying to work with right about now with ABCD to get into Africa? I mean, I know a lot of people here have the money, but they need somebody to give them the confidence that they can invest in Africa or something like that. So are you already working with somebody?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. Right now we are working with Smith Global Management, which is a company that is owned by the Smith family, Will Smith.
Yeah.
His brother, Harry Smith, who has become very close to me, is a dear friend. JK and Partners and Smith Global right now are working on a memorandum of understanding to create an investment vehicle that will go into Africa and expand in the technology areas. For instance, ABCD just recently, on August 29th of this year, we had a meeting with the Vice President of Uganda. And out of that meeting, what we had, the outcome of that meeting was a trade agreement between ABCD and the government of Uganda. And what we promised Uganda was that we would help the people of Uganda by bringing investors from the United States that will invest in oil. Uganda just discovered oil not too long ago.
Yeah.
So now we're working with Smith Global Management, and what they're doing is they have a group of investors that are looking to help develop Uganda in the area of infrastructure, building infrastructure, which means building roads, telecommunication systems, and various other things. I am directly involved in this venture, even though the person that is handling this project is George, who is our project director, and also a personal friend to Will Smith. He's the one that brought Smith Global to the table. I brought the Ugandan government to the table. So to cut a long story short, without being boring, what we have is we have an agreement working with Uganda,
Okay.
and we have an agreement working with Smith Global, and together we are working on putting a delegation together, where we will have a delegation of about 10 businessmen, I included myself, George, and some other members of ABCD, and also some senior members of Smith Global. we're going to Uganda by November, before the end of this year. And what I would like to see is I would like to see us develop the same type of relationship with Zambia. Zambia having gone through elections,
Exactly.
and I must say, I'm very, very proud of the way the elections in Zambia went.
Exactly.
You know, so we are working on developing relationships that will benefit Africa and also the United States, because Americans need jobs.
Exactly.
So do Africans. And the Chinese as and I don't want to be misunderstood, okay? The Chinese have done for Africa what America and Britain have failed to do. America and Britain, even though they are superpowers and have the obligation to make sure that Africa maintains the dignity and stability of our economies, they have enough problems of their own, so they can't really worry about Africa. But the Chinese have come into Africa and they have brought a lot of technology to Africa. They have invested in the mines and they have developed our infrastructure. So we can't blame them for doing what they're doing. But
we just have you know, a way of you know, regulation as a matter of you know, you can invest in a country as long as, you know, you respect the labor laws.
Absolutely.
You know, and the native people get their fair share of the business. I understand what I'm saying. So we can work with them. We can work with them, but we just gotta regulate and make sure that the native people are respected in terms of labor laws, and you know, they get a fair share of the deal. So that's what I'm saying. So for you, there's a new government. You know, you get a new president. What would you appeal to the new? I mean, what's your word to the you know, Mr. Sata or the?
Well, first of all, respect, in my opinion, is earned. If you want people to respect you, you have to respect yourself. Okay? Zambia and Africa in general, we have been beaten so badly that our self-esteem has sunk to a level that is beyond, I don't want to say beyond, let me rephrase that. We have been put in a position where we feel that we need help, we need welfare. What we need to do is change that paradigm and realize that Africa is powerful.
We have to be partners.
Treat us as equal partners. The problem we are having, again, this is just my opinion, the problem we are having in Zambia is that we have no, like you said, we have no standards, or we have no labor laws, so to speak. Because it doesn't make sense for you and me, excuse me, to get up in the morning, to go to work and work on a copper mine that is supplying, I mean, Zambia, you have to think about it. Zambia is the largest producer and supplier of copper in Africa, and probably in the world, if I'm not mistaken. But we need, as Zambians, we need to realize that if we are to be respected, we have to respect ourselves. So when you have a miner who works in a copper mine where copper is selling at $8,000, $9,000 per metric ton, there should be some standards or some limits. You cannot be coming out of a hut in a house where you have no running water, no electricity, and you're going to work underground in a copper mine with no safety clothing, with flip-flops, no hard hats, no overalls, and then you come home to your family and you're making $30, $40 a month.
And then the investors and the people are making a lot of money out of it.
Of course they are.
So that's the standard we're talking about.
But if we don't demand,
exactly,
if we don't demand that respect,
You can't change what you
we
can't.
won't get
You
it.
know what? It's just like you cannot change what you tolerate. That's the thing. So it's like there's so many things we've tolerated, and to change, we have to, like you said, demand and to know what our true value is. You know, because when you go there, you're going there as a partner. You're putting in your knowledge, whatever expertise. So people are not paying you from their pocket. It's like you're contributing. So we have to start thinking like that
Right.
to make a change. So I'm very, very glad that this event has, brought up a lot of things to move us into that direction to say we have to redress this situation, to say, you know what, we cannot go on living life like we're beggars. We cannot
Right.
be, asking for handouts all the time. We have what it takes.
That's right.
So on that note, thank you so very much.
But I would like, if I may, I would like to just add one more thing. In the spirit of the Rentse Foundation, you see, what I admire about Botswana, I lived in Botswana for 3 years.
Maintain good. The economy has been strong. Yeah.
The economy is very strong. You know why? Because the Botswana are proud people. They are a proud people. They have a population of about 1.3, 1.6 million. They have more cattle. They have more cows than they have human beings. They have about 20 million cattle in Botswana, and 1.6, 1.3 million people, 1.3, 1.6 million people. But they're a very proud people. So there's something to be learned here from the Botswana, and that is the fact that they realize that they have diamonds. They realize that they're authentic, genuine black people, and they have self-respect. So there's a lot to be learned from them. Sometimes people tend to, Rentse, who you know very well, she gets into a lot of confrontations with people because she refuses to be looked at as a third world personality. And that is something that I've actually learned from her. She refuses when people come and say, well, we want to go to Botswana and buy diamonds. You can go to Botswana, and if you have enough connections, you can go into the Kalahari Desert, and for a bag of salt, you can trade and get diamonds. But it's very difficult to do that because the Botswana people guard their wealth. And we need countries like Zambia, South Sudan. South Sudan has oil, okay? They need to realize that our natural resources are a gift from God. And if we don't guard it and protect it, then anybody will come in and take it from us, and then there's nothing we can do about it.
That's true.
That's I hope I don't offend anyone, but I'm just trying to be as genuine as I can be.
No, actually, that's just self-explanatory. We had a discussion, and it makes sense, and I think the viewers out there got the point. And it was really nice talking to you, and it's just, I'm so honored to be at the event for the launch of the foundation, and I hope to see a better Africa and better things happening for us.
I think we're moving in the right direction. Thank you for allowing me the time. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right.